I never thought the worst night of my dating life would turn into the night everything quietly changed for me. My name is Noah Carter. I am 27. I live alone in a small apartment in the suburbs of Chicago, and I fix things for a living. Servers, routers, frozen laptops, broken printers. I am the guy people call when something stops working and they are 2 minutes away from throwing it out the window. Being an IT tech is not glamorous, but it is simple. Clear problem, clear solution. People thank you, you go home. Feelings are not part of the job, which is probably why I liked it. Most days look the same. I wake up to the same alarm sound, drag myself into the shower, put on one of my work polos with the little company logo, and drive to the office with a travel mug of coffee. After work, I usually go straight home, reheat leftover pizza or make a sandwich, then sit at my desk scrolling through Reddit or playing some game I have already beaten twice. Sometimes I text my buddy Jake and we grab a beer, but more often than not, it is just me in the glow of my monitor. Quiet, predictable, a little empty, if I am honest. My last girlfriend told me I was too predictable, not ambitious enough, not exciting enough. She wanted big plans, big dreams, big moves to other cities. I wanted a steady job, a small place, and someone to come home to. She left. I told myself I was fine. I told myself that being alone was easier than trying again and failing. Then, Jake decided to interfere. It started on a Tuesday afternoon. I was under a desk, trying to untangle a mess of cables, when Jake crouched down next to me. "Noah, man, you have to try this blind date event tonight," he said. "It is at Rosewood Cafe. I already talked to the host. They matched you with this marketing girl named Tina. She likes hiking, indie music, and guys in tech. It is perfect." I bumped my head on the desk. "I don't even like hiking," I muttered. "And last time you set me up, she only talked about her followers on Instagram." Jake rolled his eyes. "Okay, that was a miss. But this one is better. Come on. What is the worst that can happen? You get a free coffee and a story to tell." I should have said no. I should have stayed safe and gone home to my leftovers in my quiet apartment. But something in me was tired of the same nights, the same walls, the same glow of my monitor. So I exhaled and said, "Fine, one date. If it is awful, you owe me pizza for a month." That night I changed into my cleanest button-up shirt, the light blue one that somehow makes me look less pale. On my way downtown, I stopped at a corner shop near Rosewood. A small bucket of flowers sat outside. I grabbed a simple bouquet of daisies, not roses or anything dramatic. Just small white petals with yellow centers, honest. Not trying too hard. I figured if Tina hated them, at least I tried. Rosewood Cafe was warm when I walked in. Exposed brick walls, soft jazz playing low, the smell of coffee and baked bread hanging in the air. Fairy lights were strung across the ceiling, making everything feel soft and familiar. I had been there before on bad days, sitting alone in the corner booth with a black coffee and my thoughts. Tonight, it felt different. The host pointed me to a table set up near the middle for the blind date event. Tiny candles flickered. People sat in pairs, leaning forward, laughing or scrolling their phones when things were not going well. Tina arrived a few minutes later. Her profile picture had been all big smiles, soft lighting, and flattering angles. In person, she looked different, a little older, a little more guarded. But that was not the problem. The problem was how fast her questions turned sharp. "So," she said, stirring her latte, "what do you do? How much do you make? Do you want to move up in the company? Any plans to start your own business?" Her tone was smooth, but her eyes were scanning like I was a form to be filled out. "I'm an IT tech," I said. "I keep things running. I like solving problems. I don't really care about climbing ladders. I just want a good life." She took a sip, unimpressed. "My ex was a VP at a tech firm," she said. "He took me to New York, LA, all the good places." I swore I'd never date another guy without a 5-year plan again. I tried to joke. My 5-year plan is to not break anything important and maybe finally go to the gym consistently. She did not laugh. 10 minutes later, it was obvious we were both done. "Look," I said gently, "I don't think this is a match. You want someone different, and that's okay." Relief flashed across her face. "Yeah," she said, "no hard feelings. I paid for the drinks." She left. No backward glance. "No, thanks for coming. Just gone." I could have left too, but the thought of going back to my empty apartment felt heavier than usual. So I moved to my usual corner booth, ordered another black coffee, and stared out at the Chicago streets glowing under the night lights. People walked by with bags, with friends, with someone's hand in theirs. I sat alone and wondered if my ex was right about me. Maybe I was too predictable. Maybe I was just a background character. That was when I noticed her. At the table next to mine sat a woman in a simple blue dress. She had warm brown hair pulled back loosely and soft curves that filled the chair in a way that looked natural, not forced. Her hands fidgeted with a napkin, folding and unfolding it. Every few seconds she glanced at the door, hope flickering in her eyes. She looked nervous, like this night mattered more than she wanted anyone to see. I did not stare, but it was hard not to notice her. When our eyes met once, she gave me a small, polite smile and looked away. I nodded back, then pretended to focus on my phone. A few minutes later, her date arrived. He came in like he owned the place. Gym shorts, a tight tank top that showed off his muscles, tan skin, confident walk. The kind of guy people notice. He dropped into the chair across from her with a grin that did not quite reach his eyes. At first, their voices were low. Then, his got louder. "You're bigger than your photos," he said, not even bothering to lower his tone. "I mean, seriously, I'm a trainer. People see who I'm with. I can't be seen with someone like this." The air in the cafe shifted. Conversation dipped. Forks paused. I felt my jaw clench. Her cheeks went red. "My photos are real," she said, her voice small. "I told you they were recent. I told you to think about it before we met." He scoffed and pulled out his wallet. "Here," he said, dropping a 20 on the table, "for the drinks. Use the rest for a gym membership or something." Then he stood up and turned to leave like he had just dropped off a package he did not care about. She sat there frozen, blinking back tears, her shoulders shaking as she stared down at her hands. Normally, I am the guy who keeps his head down, avoids conflict, fixes wires, not people, but watching her sit there, broken in front of everyone, something in me snapped. As he walked past my table, I stood up slowly and stepped into his line. "You should leave," I said quietly. "She doesn't need to hear anything else from you." He looked me up and down and laughed. "Who are you? Her boyfriend?" I did not answer him. I turned instead to the woman at the table, her eyes shiny with tears. "Mind if I sit?" I asked gently. She hesitated, then gave a tiny nod. Trevor muttered something under his breath and stormed out, the bell over the door ringing behind him. The whole cafe seemed to exhale. People went back to their conversations, but I could feel a few eyes on us as I sat down across from her. "You don't have to talk," I said softly, sliding a fresh napkin toward her, "but no one should be alone after that." She wiped her eyes, trying to smile through the mess. "I must look awful," she whispered. "You look like someone who was just treated badly." I answered, "That's not your fault." She looked at me, really looked, like she was trying to figure out if I was for real. That was the moment my bad blind date ended, and something else, something I did not understand yet, quietly began. I did not know what to say after that, so I did the only thing that felt right. I stayed. For a moment, we just sat there in silence. She dabbed her eyes with the napkin, trying to fix her mascara, her hand still shaking a little. Up close, I could see how tired she looked, like it had been a long day before this disaster even started. "I'm Noah," I said gently, resting my hands on the table so she could see I was not going anywhere. "I was on a blind date too. It went pretty bad, but yours beat mine by a mile." A small, broken laugh slipped out of her. "I'm Eden," she said. "Nice to meet you, I guess. Sorry you had to see that." "You have nothing to be sorry for," I said. "He was the problem, not you." Before she could answer, the owner, Mr. Castellano, came over. He is this older Italian man with silver hair and kind eyes. He had watched everything from behind the counter. He set down 2 plates in front of us, each one stacked with hot lasagna, cheese bubbling at the edges. "On the house," he said, his voice firm but warm, "for good hearts who deserve better nights." Eden blinked. "You don't have to do that." He waved her off. "Eat," he said. "No one should go home hungry and sad." Then he walked away, the smell of the lasagna wrapped around us. Warm tomato, melted cheese, fresh herbs. Eden stared at her plate like she did not know if she was allowed to enjoy it. Then her stomach growled, loud enough for both of us to hear. She covered her face with her hands. "Great," she said, her voice muffled. "Now even my stomach is embarrassing me." I smiled. "Trust me, mine does that too. First rule of bad nights, eat something. It helps." Slowly she picked up her fork and took a small bite. Her shoulders dropped a little. "Wow," she said. "This is actually really good." "Told you," I said, digging into my own. "I come here a lot, mostly alone, so tonight is an upgrade." That earned me another small laugh. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I did not rush her. I did not ask heavy questions. I just stayed. After a while, she set her fork down and looked at me. "Why are you being so nice?" she asked. "You don't know me." I thought about it. "Because I know what it feels like to walk out of a place like this and wonder if something is wrong with you," I said. Tonight my date talked to me like she was interviewing a job candidate. She wanted a guy with a big title and a perfect 5-year plan. I am just the IT guy who keeps the Wi-Fi alive. She was done with me in 10 minutes. Eden nodded slowly. "So your date judged your ambition. Mine judged my body. Feels like the same poison in a different bottle." "Yeah," I said. "Same poison." Her fingers traced the edge of her plate. "I am a pediatric nurse," she said quietly. "I work at Mercy Hospital. I spend my days taking care of kids with cancer, kids who are scared, kids who hurt. I hold their hands when they cry. I talk to parents who think their world is ending. I go home with swollen feet and an empty stomach most days. And then I come here hoping for a nice night and get told I am too big to stand next to." She tried to laugh, but it came out rough. I knew putting real photos on my profile was a risk. I have always been curvy, always been the girl people call sweet or funny, but never beautiful. I told myself if a guy swiped right anyway, he was okay with it. Guess I was wrong. I felt something tight in my chest. "You were not wrong," I said. "He was. For what it's worth, I think you look great in that dress. Blue really suits you." She blinked, surprised. A slow blush rose in her cheeks. "You don't have to say that." "I know," I said. "That is why I am saying it." Quote. Her eyes met mine, and this time she did not look away right away. There was so much hurt in them, but also something else. A small flame that refused to go out. We talked after that, not like 2 people on a date, more like 2 strangers who had both just survived a hit and were sharing the same bench after the storm. She told me about growing up in Ohio, always being the bigger girl in her class, the teasing, the backhanded compliments. The way teachers sometimes looked at her like her body was a problem she needed to fix. She told me how she chose nursing because she wanted to be the person she never had. Someone gentle, someone who made you feel safe. I told her about growing up as the quiet kid in a loud family in the suburbs, how I slipped into IT because computers were easier than people. "You hit a problem, you run a test, you fix it," I said. "Feelings are not that simple. That is probably why I am terrible at dating." "You are not terrible," she said. "You stepped in when you did not have to. That is more than most people would have done. Most people looked away." Quote. I shrugged, a little embarrassed. "I got mad," I said. "You deserved better than that guy." She smiled, a gentle, tired smile, but real. "Thank you," she said, "for sitting with me, for not letting me stay alone at that table." We finished our food. The cafe started to empty out. The jazz music kept playing, softer now. Mr. Castellano wiped down the counter, glancing over at us from time to time with a small, pleased look on his face. When the plates were cleared, I pulled my phone out, suddenly nervous. "Listen," I said, I am here most Tuesday nights anyway. If you ever want company again, just to talk or not talk, I am around." She tilted her head. "Like a standing appointment?" I scratched the back of my neck. "More like a standing option. No pressure. If you ever feel like not going home alone after a shift, text me." She looked at me for a long second like she was deciding if she could trust this. Then she took out her own phone. "Give me your number," she said. I read it out. She typed, then sent a message. My phone buzzed a second later. "Now you have mine too," she said. As we stood outside under the streetlights, the city buzzing in the background, she hugged her arms around herself against the cool night air. "Why did you really sit with me, Noah?" she asked softly. "People saw what happened, but only you moved." I swallowed, feeling my throat tighten. "Because I know what it feels like to think you are not enough," I said. "And I am tired of watching good people believe that lie." She looked down, then back up at me, her eyes shining again but calmer now. "Everyone deserves to be loved," she said quietly. "Even people like me. Even people like you." I nodded. "Maybe we can start by not letting each other forget that." She smiled, a real, full smile this time. "Good night, Noah." "Good night, Eden," I said. As I watched her walk away under the streetlights, my phone still warm in my hand from her text, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Not fireworks. Not some movie moment. Just a quiet shift. A door opening. I had gone to Rosewood Cafe for a blind date that went nowhere. Instead, I walked away with a number in my phone and a feeling in my chest that this was only the beginning. I was tricked into a blind date with a fat girl, and she said, "Everyone deserves to be loved." Part 3. After that night at Rosewood Cafe, Tuesdays stopped feeling like just another day in the week. They started to feel like hours. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Eden. "Morning. Thank you again for not letting me eat alone last night." I smiled at the screen in my tiny kitchen, the coffee machine humming behind me. I typed back, "Anytime. Hope today is kinder to you than yesterday." That was how it began. Small messages, short check-ins, a meme about bad dates, a photo of her coffee cup at the hospital, a snapshot of a server error message I was fighting at work. It was nothing big, but it built something between us piece by piece. By the next Tuesday, I was back at Rosewood Cafe in my usual corner booth. Part of me felt stupid for hoping, but I still checked the door every time it opened. Mr. Castellano set a mug of black coffee in front of me. "Expecting someone?" he asked with a small smile. "Maybe," I said, looking down at the steam rising from the cup. A few minutes later, the bell above the door rang, and there she was. Eden. Blue scarf wrapped around her neck, hair pulled into a loose ponytail, cheeks pink from the cold outside. She scanned the room, saw me, and smiled in a way that made my chest feel lighter. "You came," I said as she slid into the booth. "Tuesdays needed an upgrade," she said. "Might as well make them ours." We ordered coffee and split a slice of apple pie. There were no awkward pauses this time. She told me about a little boy at the hospital who hated needles but loved dinosaur stickers, and how she made a whole game out of earning them. I told her about a client who threatened to throw his router out the window because his Wi-Fi dropped during a video call. "You are like a tech firefighter," she said, laughing, "running into burning networks." "That might be the nicest description anyone has ever given my job," I said. We kept the Tuesday tradition going. Some nights we stayed at the cafe until closing. Other nights we just grabbed coffee and walked down the street, talking about nothing special. Weather, music, childhood. The kind of talk that feels small until you realize it is slowly stitching two lives together. One week she texted me during the day. "Laptop dying. Email freezing. Do you fix hopeless cases?" I replied, "Yes. I am an IT guy. Hopeless cases are my specialty." She invited me to her apartment after my shift. It was a small place near the hospital. Warm lights, soft blankets on the couch, plants on the windowsills. There were framed photos of kids smiling in hospital gowns, and one picture that caught my eye. A younger version of her, maybe 10 years old, standing in front of a birthday cake. Round cheeks, shy smile, arms hanging stiff at her sides like she was trying to disappear. "You found my past," she said from behind me, holding 2 mugs of tea. "You are cute," I said honestly. "You look happy." "I was," she said quietly, "until people started telling me I should not be, not in that body." Quote. She set the tea down and forced a smile. "Anyway, here, your tools, my dying laptop." I took the hint and focused on the job. Loose power cable, too many background programs, a failing fan, stuff I could fix. While I worked, she told me more about her shifts, the kids, the parents. The way she sometimes sat in her car after work and cried before she drove home. "I am not crying because of them," she said. "I am crying because I wish I could do more." "You already do more than most people," I said, glancing up at her. "You show up. That counts." When I handed the laptop back, running smooth, she smiled and bumped my shoulder lightly with hers. "You really do fix hopeless cases," she said. "Good to know." For a while, it felt like we were both healing from something we had not fully named. I stopped feeling like the invisible IT guy in the corner. She stopped shrinking herself in every room. We were not a couple, not officially, but we were not just strangers anymore either. Then came the night everything shook again. It was a busy Tuesday at Rosewood. The place was louder than usual. A group of students at one table, a couple arguing softly at another. Rain tapped at the windows. Eden beat me there and grabbed our booth. When I walked in, she waved, her face tired but bright. "Long day?" I asked, sliding in. "Very," she said. "One of the kids threw up on my shoes. Twice." "You?" "3 servers down, 1 angry manager, nothing new." We were mid-laugh when the door opened and a group of women walked in, chatting loudly. They wore gym clothes and expensive sneakers, their hair pulled back neat and high. They scanned the room. One of them froze when she saw Eden. "Oh my God," she said, walking straight toward us. "Eden Hayes?" Eden's smile faded. Her shoulders stiffened. "Lindsay," she said quietly. "Hi." 3 more women pulled up around our table without asking. They smelled like perfume and rain. They talked fast, high voices filling the space. "We have not seen you since college," Lindsay said, throwing her arms around Eden in a hug that looked more like a trap than a welcome. "Look at you, still so healthy." Quote. The word hung in the air like smoke. Eden forced a laugh and introduced me. "This is Noah, a friend." Lindsay glanced at me, then back at her, eyes flicking up and down her body. "Remember how we used to call you the cozy one?" she said with a chuckle. "Like a walking pillow. You have, kept the look." The others giggled, trying to hide it behind their hands. My jaw clenched. "I have been working full-time," Eden said, voice thin. "Long shifts, not much time for yoga." Lindsay leaned closer. "You should come to my spin class sometime. You are gorgeous, but, a little toning never hurts. Think how amazing you would look if you just pushed a bit harder. Everyone deserves to feel confident, right?" My hand curled into a fist under the table. I looked at Eden. Her eyes were fixed on her coffee cup. Her knuckles were white around the mug. "I am busy with the hospital," she said. "But thanks." After a few more sharp smiles and fake promises to catch up soon, the group drifted away to another table. The air around us felt heavy. The cafe noise faded into a dull hum. Eden stared at the table. "I am fine," she said after a long minute. "It is whatever." But her voice was flat, and I knew she was not fine. We tried to keep talking, but each time she smiled, it came with effort. After a while, she checked her phone. "I have an early shift," she said. "I should get going." I walked her to the door. Outside, the rain had slowed to a mist. She hugged herself, not meeting my eyes. "Text me when you get home," I asked. "Yeah," she said, but her voice was somewhere far away. That night, my phone stayed dark. 1 day passed. Then 2. I sent a simple, "Hope you are okay" message. No reply. On the 3rd day, I stared at my phone during lunch, stomach twisted in a knot. I could have told myself she was busy. I could have decided to leave it alone. Instead, After work, I stopped at a deli near her place, picked up her favorite turkey sandwich, and drove to her apartment. My heart pounded as I climbed the stairs and knocked on her door. There was a pause, then the sound of feet shuffling. The door opened a crack. Eden stood there in an oversized t-shirt and sweatpants, hair messy, eyes red and swollen. "Noah," she said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I brought food," I said, lifting the bag a little. "And I was worried. Can I come in?" She hesitated, then opened the door wider. Her living room was dim. Curtains half closed. The coffee table was covered in crumpled tissues and old printed emails and notes. The same photo of her as a kid on the shelf looked back at us like a reminder. We sat on the couch. She did not touch the sandwich. "Those girls," she said finally, staring at the mess on the table. "They were my friends. Or I thought they were. Back in college, they used to send me messages like this." She picked up one of the papers and handed it to me. It was an old email. "Eden, you would be so pretty if you just lost some weight. Do you even try?" My chest burned. "I saved them to remind myself not to be that girl anymore," she said. "But when I saw them again, heard the same things, I felt like I was right back there. Too big. Too much. Not enough. All at once." Quote. Tears filled her eyes. She looked at me, her voice shaking. "Noah, I am scared," she whispered. "What if one day you look at me and see what they see? What if you wake up and realize I am not someone you want to be seen with? I do not want to drag you down." I swallowed hard. I knew that fear. Mine was different, but just as real. The fear of not being enough, of being left behind. I shifted closer and took her hand. It trembled in mine. "Eden," I said, "I am not here because you are perfect. I am here because you are you. The woman who holds kids when they are scared. The woman who laughs at my bad jokes. The woman who stayed in that cafe and let me sit with her on her worst night." She shook her head as tears spilled over. "What if that is not enough?" "It is enough for me," I said. "More than enough. I am not going anywhere just because some girl in gym clothes thinks she can rate you. They do not get to decide your worth. And they do not get to decide who I care about. I do." She stared at me for a long second. Then she broke, leaning forward and pressing her face to my chest as sobs shook her shoulders. I wrapped my arms around her and held on, rubbing slow circles on her back. "It hurts," she choked out. "I hate that it still hurts." "I know," I said softly. "We both have old voices in our heads, but we can get louder than them. Together." We stayed like that for a long time. No words, just breathing, just staying. When her tears finally slowed, she pulled back a little, eyes swollen but calmer. "Thank you for not walking away," she said. "I am not planning to," I answered. She leaned her head on my shoulder and closed her eyes. The room was quiet except for the low hum of the fridge and the rain starting up again outside. As I sat there with her weight warm against me, I realized something. This was not just about a bad date anymore, or a few kind words in a cafe. It was about showing up in the ugly moments, about choosing to stay when walking away would be easier. I had no idea then how much more life would test that choice. I was tricked into a blind date with a fat girl, and she said, "Everyone deserves to be loved." Part 4. After that night on her couch, something between us settled, not in a boring way, but in a deeper way. Like a knot finally tied. Eden did not disappear again. The next morning, she sent a photo of the sandwich I had brought, half eaten now. A little smiley face drawn on the napkin. "Finished it for breakfast. Thanks for rescuing me from cold pizza," she wrote. I sat at my desk at work, staring at the message, feeling something warm spread through my chest. From then on, things changed, quietly. She started texting me more during her breaks, not just stories about weird patients or cute kids, but little things that meant trust. A photo of the sunrise from the hospital parking lot. A message saying she was tired but proud after a long shift. A meme about nurses running on caffeine and stubbornness. I started sharing more too. Not just dumb IT jokes, but real stuff. How I felt invisible in my family growing up. How my ex made me feel like I was a placeholder until someone better came along. How sometimes I looked in the mirror and did not recognize the guy staring back. "You are better than you think you are," she wrote one night. "You just got used to seeing yourself through someone else's blurry lens." We did not call it dating at first. We just kept choosing each other. More walks, more coffees, more evenings on her couch watching movies while she leaned against me, her head on my shoulder, her hand resting on my chest like it had always belonged there. One Saturday afternoon, we went back to Rosewood Cafe together. For the first time, we walked in side by side, not by accident, not as strangers whose bad nights collided, but as two people who were there on purpose. Mr. Castellanos' eyes lit up when he saw us. "My favorite pair," he said, setting 2 mugs on the counter before we even ordered. "Back where it all started, eh?" Eden laughed, that full laugh I had grown to love. "Yeah," she said, "back where it all started." We took our booth by the window. The city outside was bright. Kids ran past with ice cream. Cars moved slowly under the light. Eden wrapped her hands around her mug. "So," she said, "are we still calling this just Tuesdays?" I felt my heart jump. "What do you want to call it?" I asked. She looked out the window for a moment, then back at me. "I want to call you my boyfriend," she said. The word hit me like a warm wave. Simple. Huge. "Then I am your boyfriend," I said. "If you want to be my girlfriend." She rolled her eyes softly. "I thought that part was obvious." We both laughed, and the air between us shifted. It did not feel like we jumped into something new. It felt like we had finally put a name on what was already there. Of course, life did not turn into some perfect movie right after that. There were hard days. She still had moments where she stood in front of the mirror too long, tugging at her clothes, chewing on her lip. "I hate this top," she would say. "It shows everything." And I would step behind her, rest my chin on her shoulder, meet her eyes in the glass. "I love that top," I would say, "because it is on you, and I love you." The first time I said those words, it slipped out before I could think. We both froze. Our eyes met in the mirror. "You love me?" she asked quietly. I swallowed, but I did not pull it back. "Yeah," I said. "I do." I did not plan to say it like that, but I am not taking it back. She turned around slowly and pressed her forehead to mine. "Good," she whispered, "because I love you too." We kissed, soft at first, then fuller. It did not feel like fireworks. It felt like a door opening in a room I had been stuck in for years. A few weeks later, life tested us again. We were back at Rosewood on a busy Friday night. Not our usual Tuesday, but we wanted dessert after a movie. We were sharing a slice of chocolate cake, talking about nothing important, when the bell above the door rang. Trevor walked in, same tank top style, same gym shorts, same confident swagger. He scanned the room and did a double take when he saw Eden. "Eden?" he called, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Her back stiffened. I felt her hand clamp around her fork. He walked straight over, ignoring me at first. "Wow," he said, looking her up and down. "Still here, huh? Still doing the blind date thing?" I set my fork down and sat up straighter. "We are not doing blind dates," I said. "We are together." He glanced at me, then back at her, smirking. "Really, guess everyone lowers their standards eventually." The words made the air sharp. Eden's eyes flashed with that old hurt. I felt anger surge in my chest. The old me would have stayed quiet, avoided conflict, shrunk away. "Not this time." "You need to walk away," I said, my voice steady. "You embarrassed her once. You are not doing it again." Trevor snorted. "You think you're some hero now? Come on, man. You could do better than this. You know how this looks." Eden took a slow breath. Her hand found mine under the table and squeezed. Then, to my surprise, she stood up. She faced him, her shoulders square, chin lifted just a little. Her voice was calm, not loud, but it carried. "This looks like two people who chose each other," she said. "You treated me like trash. That is on you, not me. I spent years thinking I had to earn respect by shrinking myself. I am done." People around us turned to listen. Conversations faded. Trevor huffed. "I just said what everyone was thinking." "You are wrong," she said. You know what I tell my kids at the hospital when they think they are not enough? I tell them everyone deserves to be loved. Every single person. Sick, scared, loud, quiet, small, big. All of them. And that includes me. Her voice trembled on the last word, but she did not look away. Trevor shifted, uncomfortable for the first time. His confident mask cracked. He glanced around, saw the stares he was getting, and scoffed. Whatever, he muttered. Enjoy your cake. He turned and walked out. The bell above the door rang again. This time it sounded like a period at the end of a sentence. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, the cafe slowly went back to normal. Mr. Castellano walked over, wiped his hands on his apron, and gave Eden a gentle nod. That, he said, is how you handle a fool. Eden sank back into her seat. Her hands shook as she picked up her fork. I cannot believe I said all that, she whispered. I reached across the table and took her hand. I can, I said. Do you know how proud I am of you right now? Her eyes filled, but she smiled through it. I was shaking the whole time. You stood up anyway, I said. That is what matters. She squeezed my fingers. Did you mean it? She asked softly. When you called us together? Yes, I said without hesitation. I am with you. I choose you. Every day. She took a breath like she was letting go of something heavy she had carried for years. Then I choose you too, she said. Every day, even on the bad ones. We finished the cake, sharing slow bites. The chocolate tasted sweeter somehow. Later that night, back at my apartment, we sat on my old couch together. She leaned against me, her legs draped over my lap, her head warm on my shoulder. The TV was on, but neither of us was really watching. You know what is funny? She said quietly. What? If someone had told me I would end up with a guy the first met on the worst blind date of my life, I would have laughed in their face. Quote, if someone had told me I would fall for the woman who cried into her napkin at the table next to mine, I said I would have stayed home that night. She smiled and traced a line on my arm with her finger. But we were both there, she said. You were tricked into some awful blind date. I was humiliated on mine. And still, somehow, we found each other. Best trick the universe ever played on me, I said. She laughed softly and looked up at me. Noah, she asked. Yeah? Promise me something. Anything. Whatever people say, whatever old voices come back, whatever bad days we have. Promise me you will remember this, that we both deserve to be loved. Not because we are perfect, just because we are human. I looked at her, at the woman who had been called too much and not enough all her life, who still showed up to hold scared kids, hands, who let me see her when she was broken and let me stay. I promise, I said, you deserve to be loved. I do too, and I am not running. She rested her head back on my chest. Outside, the city kept moving. Cars, lights, noise. Inside, everything felt quiet and sure. I used to think love was something dramatic. Big speeches, perfect timing, fancy dates. Now I knew the truth. Sometimes love is a guy in a corner booth and a girl with mascara on her cheeks. A ruined blind date. A plate of lasagna. A choice to sit down instead of looking away. Sometimes love is simple. Someone looks at you, really looks, and says in their own way, you deserve to be loved. And you finally believe them.